Hi, everybody. You're reading with Jimmy. This is William Shakespeare's Hamlet, Act 4, Scenes 3 and 4. Scene 3, same room, another room in the castle. Here comes Horatio and servant. It's important to pay attention to the directions as well, so you know who's on stage with your mind's eye, right? Horatio, what are they that they would speak with me? Servant, sailors, sir. They say that they have letters for you. Horatio, well, let them come in. Exit servant. I do not know from what part of the world I should be greeted, if not from Lord Hamlet, says Horatio. Don't forget Horatio's his buddy, right? Here come the sailors. Sailor, God bless you, sir. Horatio, let him bless thee too. You see how polite people are in those days? Notice the word sir all the time, right? We're going to see that sir going back whenever they do word fencing. You've seen this already in the prior acts, but they're very polite to each other, aren't they? Sailor, he shall, sir, and it please him. There's a letter for you, sir. It comes from the ambassador that was bound for England. If your name be Horatio, as I am led to know it is, Horatio reads. So this is interesting too, because now he's reading a letter in a play on a stage for the audience. Horatio, when thou shalt have overlooked this, give these fellows some means to the king. They have letters for him. Ere we were 2 days old at sea, a pirate of a very warlike appointment gave us chase. Finding ourselves too slow of sail, we put on a compelled valor, and in the grapple I boarded them. On the instant that they got clear of our ship, so I alone became their prisoner. They have dealt with me like thieves of mercy, but they knew what they did. I am to do a good turn for them, so let the king have the letters that I have sent, and repair them to me with as much speed as thou wouldst fly death. Do it quickly, like you're running from death. I have words to speak in thy ear, and will make thee dumb. That will make thee dumb. Yet are they much too light for the bore of the matter. These good fellows will bring thee where I am. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern hold their course for England. Of them I have much to tell thee. Farewell. He that knowest thine Hamlet. So the letter is basically telling Horatio, let these people, he was captured by a pirate, supposedly. Anyway, he was captured by a pirate. Give these people, he's got a couple of letters for the king, so take them over there. And then I've got some things to tell you about it. And Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are still on their way to England. Got it? Come, I will make you way for these your letters, and do the speedier that you may direct me to him whom you brought them. In other words, I'll take you to the king, get you quickly, but make sure you take me back to him, right? Note the quick change in scenes. Right? That was scene 3. Sailors bring in letters. Then we're into scene 4. Remember, this is quick scenes as opposed to long scenes that we saw in the beginning of the play. So quick scenes, things are happening and they're moving quickly, right? Another room in the castle, and here comes the king and Laertes. King, now must your conscience my acquaintance seal, and you must put me in your heart for friend. Sith that you have heard, and with a knowing ear, that he which hath your noble father slain pursued my life. So now the king is bringing Laertes into his confidence and saying, the guy, he, you know who that is, right? It's Hamlet, who hath, your noble father slain, pursued my life. He's also trying to kill me. Laertes, it well appears, but tell me, why you proceeded not against these feats, so criminal and so capital in nature? As by your safety, wisdom of all things else, you mainly were stirred up. In other words, why didn't you do so? Why didn't you do something about it if you knew all this stuff, right? King, for two special reasons, which may you perhaps seem unsinewed, in other words, not important, but yet to me they're very strong. The queen, his mother, lives almost by his looks, and for myself, my virtue or my plague, be it either which, she's so conjunctive to my life and soul that at the star moves not but in its sphere, I could not put by her. In other words, his mother. I don't want to do nothing because I'm married to his mother, right? The other motive, why to the public count I might not go, is the great love that the general gender bear of him. He's beloved by his people, who, dipping all of his faults in their affection, work like the spring that turneth wood to stone. They just ignore his failings, right? His faults. Cometh to graves and graces, so that my arrows, gyves and graces, too slightly timbered for allowed to wind, would have revenged to my bow again, and not where I had aimed them. In other words, he's beloved by his people, and it's going to come back and bite me. They're going to come after me then, Laertes. And so have I a noble father lost, a sister driven into desperate terms, whose worth, if praises may go back again, stood challenger on mount of all age for her perfections. But my revenge will come. My revenge, Laertes is gonna get even. King, break not your sleep for that. You must not think that we are made of stuff so flat and dull that we can let our beard, right, be shook with anger and think it a pastime. In other words, don't think that I'm not thinking about this. You shortly shall hear more. I loved your father, and we love ourselves. And that, I hope, will reach you to imagine. Pardon me, here comes the messenger. How now? What news? Says the king. Messenger. Letters, my lord, from Hamlet. This to your majesty, and this to the queen. So there's two letters. King, from Hamlet? Who brought them? Messenger. Sailors, my lord. They say, I saw them not. They were given to me by Claudius. He received them, and of him that brought them. King. Laertes, you shall hear them. Leave us. The messenger leaves. He reads aloud. Pardon me. This is from Hamlet now, right? High and mighty, you shall know that I am set naked on your kingdom. Tomorrow shall I beg leave to see your kingly eyes, when I shalt, first asking your pardon thereunto, recount the occasion of my sudden and more strange return. Hamlet. What should this mean? Well, are all the rest back? Who's the rest? Who are those? Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Or is it some abuse and no such thing? Is this all just BS? Laertes. No, know you the hand? Does it look like Hamlet's writing? King. It's Hamlet's character. Naked? And in a postscript here, he says alone. Can you advise me? Laertes. I'm lost in it, my lord. But let him come. It warms the very sickness in my heart that I shall live and tell him to his teeth, thus didst thou. See, Laertes is bent on revenge. Yeah, you let him come. King. If it be so, Laertes, as how should it be so? How otherwise? Will you be ruled by me? Of course you're going to tell him off, but will you listen to me? Laertes, aye, my lord, so you will not overrule me to a peace. In other words, don't try to convince me not to take my revenge. King, to thy own peace. If he be now returned as checking at his voyage, and that he means no more to undertake it, I will work him to an exploit, now ripe in my device, under the which he shall have not choose but fall. And for his death, no wind of blame shall breathe. In other words, we're going to do something about this. And no blame is going to fall back on us. And even his mother shall uncharge the practice and call it an accident. So he's got something up his sleeve. I wrote the word plot here. The king's got something up his sleeve, doesn't he? Laertes, my lord, I will be ruled. The rather, if you could devise it so, then I might be the organ. In other words, I might be your instrument for this. King, it falls right. You have been talked of since your travel much, and that in Hamlet's hearing for a quality, wherein that they say you shine. What quality is that? Your sum of parts did not together pluck such envy from him as did one. One thing stood out, and that, in my regard, of the unworthiest siege. Well, what part is that, my lord? A very ribbon in the cap of youth. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, let me shut that off. Ribbon in the cap of youth. There's no phones in Hamlet. Sorry. A very ribbon in the cap of youth. Yet needful too, for youth no less becomes the light and careless livery that it wears, than settled ago with sables in his weeds, importing health and graveness. 2 months since, here was a gentleman of Normandy. I've seen myself in servant against the French, and they can, well on horseback, be this gallant. Had witchcraft in it, he grew under his seat, and such a wondrous doing, he brought his horse. And as he had been incorporated and demi-natured with his brave beast, so far topped my thought that I, in forgery of shapes and tricks, come short of what he did. So he's admiring something that happened with a guy in a sorcerership. A Norman? A Norman? French. Laertes says, a Norman. Laertes, upon my life. Lamond, the very same, is the guy they're talking about. Laertes, I know him well, and he's a brooch indeed, a gem of all the nation. He made a confession of you. In other words, Lamond told me about you, and he gave you such a masterly report for art and exercise in your defense, and for your rapier, most especially, sword, that he cried out, "'Twould be a sight indeed if one could match you, the scrummers of their nation," that he swore, "had it neither motion, guard, nor eye, if you opposed him. Sir, this report of his did Hamlet envenom with his envy, that he could nothing do but wish and beg your sudden coming over so you can play with him." Play meaning fence with him. And now out of this, so the king is telling Laertes that this guy Lamon was praising Laertes about his fencing skills. Is that true? Yeah, I don't know. We haven't seen that in the play except for what the king is talking about, right? Now remember, what narration is this? Third-person narration, which means we have to believe what the third-person narrator is telling us. The third-person narrator is just telling us what people in this place say to each other, the actions that take place, because we're watching a play. It's much like in any book we read in a third-person narration, we're just watching, and we're listening to what the third-person narrator tells us. So now we have to judge the reliability of the people that the third-person narrator is telling us about. So the question you have to ask yourself, is this guy a reliable narrator? We're going to talk about that when we analyze this and the entire play, about the reliability of these people. Okay, it's very important, reliability of narration. So the king is saying that this guy Laman was praising Laertes as a fencer, and that Hamlet so envenomed with his envy. He envied that he wished and begged that Laertes would come over and play with him. Play means fence in this case, not play with him. Play. Laertes, well, what out of this, my lord? King, Laertes, was your father dear to you? Or are you like a painting of a sorrow, a face without a heart? Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to think about this. See, I don't know why I didn't mark that sooner. Laertes, was your father dear to you? Or are you like a painting of sorrow, a face without a heart? Jesus. This guy is amazing, isn't he? Laertes, why do you ask this? King, no, not that I think that you did not love your father, but that I know love is begun by time. Love is begun by time. And that I see in passage of proof, time qualifies the spark and the fire of it. So love grows in time, but the passage of time, right, qualifies the spark and fire. Maybe it decreases or increases. And there lives within the very flame of love a kind of wick or snuff that will abate it, that will kill it. And nothing is as like goodness still. For goodness, growing out of pleurisy, pain in the side, dies in its own too much. Goodness dies in its own. That we would do, we should do when we would. Would have, could have, would have. That we would do what we should do when we would do. This is an important concept. We're going to talk about this. For this would changes and hath abatements and delays as many as there are tongues, our hands, our accidents. And then this should is like a spendthrift sigh that hurts by easing. But to the quick of the ulcer, Hamlet comes back. What would you undertake to show yourself your father's son in deed more than in words? What would you do? See, look at this guy. He's an amazing manipulator. Would you agree with that, ladies and gentlemen? He's just playing Laertes like a string. What would you do to show yourself your father's son in deed? Well, I cut his throat in the church, Laertes says. Okay, there you go. There's commitment, right? The guy who killed his father, I'll cut his throat in the church. The king says, no place indeed should murder sanctuarize. This is called irony. You don't want to do that. Revenge should have no bounds. In other words, you don't want to kill him in a church. Remember what Hamlet didn't do because he saw Claudius praying? Remember that? But good Laertes, will you do this? Keep close within your chamber. Hamlet returns, shall know that you are come home, and will put on those that praise your excellence, right? And set a double varnish on the fame the Frenchman gave you, and will bring you in fine together, and will wager on your heads, he, being remiss, most generous, and free from all contriving, he will not pursue the foils, so that with ease or with very little shuffling you may choose the sword unbaited, and a pass of practice requite him for your father. In other words, you can pick the instrument of death, right, the foils, and you're going to see what's going to go on here. Laertes says, I will do it. And for that purpose, I anoint my sword. I brought an unction of a mountebank. Mountebank was a person who deceives others. and he tricks them into, he's a charlatan. He bought a potion, right? So mortal, but dip a knife in it, and where it draws blood, no caplisan. What is that? So rare. Collected from all the simples that have virtue under the moon can save the thing from death. That is but scratched withal. In other words, all I got to do is dip this potion in my knife, right? Break his skin, and that's it. I will touch my point, is foil when he's fencing, with this contagion that if I gall him slightly, it may be death. Contagion is the communication of disease. The king says, let's further think of this. Let's think this through. Weigh what convenience both of time and means may fit us to our shape. If this should fail, what you're saying should fail, and that our drift look through our bad performances, it were better not assayed. Therefore, this project should have a back or a second plan B, that might hold if this should blast and prove. Soft. Let me see. We'll make a solemn wager on your cunnings. I have it. When in your motion that you are hot and dry while you're fencing, and you make your bouts more violent to that end, and then he calls for a drink, I will have prepared him a chalice of nonce, whereon but sipping it, if he by chance escape your venom struck, our purpose may hold there. He's going to poison a drink. That's plan B. So if you don't stab him with the venom, I'm going to have the venom in the drink. And then when he gets hot, he takes a drink, and that's going to be that. Here comes the queen. Queen. Oh, the sweet queen. How now, sweet queen. One woe doth tread upon another's heel, so fast that they follow. Your sister is drowned, Laertes. Your sister is drowned. Drowned? Where? Queen. There's a willow that grows aslant on the brook that shows his 4 leaves in the glassy stream, and there, with fantastic garlands, did she come, of crowflowers and nettles and daisies and long purples. The liberal shepherds give a gossamer name, but on our cold maids do dead men's fingers call them. So Ophelia's coming to this place, fantastic place. You know, she's got a lot of flowers on her head, right? There on the pendant boughs, her coronet weeds, clamoring to hang, an envious silver broke. And when down her weedy trophies and herself fell into the weeping brook, her clothes spread wide, and mermaid-like, and while they bore her up, which time she chanted snatches of old tunes, as one incapable of her own distress, or like a creature native and endured upon the element, but long it would not be, until that garment was heavy with the drink, and pulled her poor wretch from the melodious lay to the muddy death. She fell off the bark of a tree, floated for a while, sang, and then drowned. Laertes. Alas, then, she's drowned? Drowned. Laertes. Too much water hast thou, poor Ophelia, and therefore I forbid my tears. But yet it is our trick. Nature her custom holds. But let shame say what it will, when these are gone, the woman will be out. Adieu, my lord, I have a speech of fire that fain would blaze, but then this folly doubts it, and he leaves. King, let's follow Gertrude. How much I have to do to calm his rage. Now fear, this will give it a start again. Therefore, let's follow. Exit. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of Act 4, right? Scene 4. It's unclear whether Ophelia's final actions are accidental or intentional. No, it's not. She did not kill herself. Many people write about that. She committed suicide, Jimmy. No, she didn't. She fell off a tree. She sang while she's, floating in the brook, in the river, and then she sank. She's singing. She doesn't know that there's no distress. Now, you can say, well, Jimmy, how did the queen know this? Well, I don't know. Somebody told her. Why didn't they save her, Jimmy? I don't know. It doesn't matter. We're only looking at what happened. We can theorize all we want. The one thing we have to do is if you say she committed suicide, you got to prove it. She didn't. She fell off a tree because she's a little off. She's been a little off. We saw she's a little off. What happened in this last scene is unbelievable, right? You got Laertes and the king plotting to kill Hamlet. You've been reading with Jimmy, and thank you so much for visiting. We've been reading Hamlet, Act 4, the last scenes of Act 4. We're going, ladies and gentlemen, to Act 5. That's the last act, the final act. I already know what's going to happen, but maybe you do too. But whoa, is it going to be unbelievable? Jimmy@readingwithjimmy.com, Jimmy@readingwithjimmy.com. Send me an email. Look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks so much.